Hello everybody, it's Wyvern here with another bit of Total War Warhammer 2 Quick Match gameplay. This time around, we are going to be on Toothgrass Hill, and I will be playing as Chaos because it was requested. David the White Lizard requested that I play some Chaos. I don't play them all too often, but I figured why not? We'll get some good old-fashioned Chaos gameplay in, and we are against the Vampire Count. So this is a bit of one of those very, in some ways I'd say lackluster matchups because it all revolves around the Mortis engine. I say this basically every time. You kill the Mortis engine as Chaos, you're probably going to win. You don't, you're probably going to lose. Now, granted, there are exceptions. I do believe there was actually in the Ever-Chosen tourney, one of the games, one of the players did bring a bunch of units, managed to snipe out the Mortis engine and the enemy lord, and still managed to lose. But most of the time, that is kind of usually Mortis engine dead means the Vampire Counts win, or the Vampire Counts lose. Regardless, quickly going over the composition here, I did decide, kind of inspired by what some of the other players, or some of the other players I've seen do, where they bring a much cheaper front line of Chaos Warriors and sort of mid-tier Chaos troops rather than the elite Chosen, and going for an Air Force build in support. So one of the things you got to be wary of is the fact that the standard Vampire counter to this is usually just a pair of Terrorgeists or Red Duke and then 2 Terrorgeists, something like that. There'll be a very heavy air presence. And two Manticores and a Chaos Lord on a Dragon are not going to be able to fight that. They're not going to be able to win. So to help that along, I did bring 2 Marauder Horsemen as well as 2 Marauder Horsemasters to help win the air battle. In the air, we do have the Chaos Lord, who has some pretty crazy buffs. He's got, of course, Breath Attack, he's got Foe Seeker, Filth Mace, Pendant of Slanesh, Deadly Onslaught, and Standard Die. I do also have an Exalted Hero who does have the Hellfire Sword, which grants him fire damage, which is really useful against Vampire Counts who have a lot of fire-vulnerable units. He's also got the Mark of Corn just to give him Frenzy, and Foe Seeker. Finally, we do have a Chaos Sorcerer of Fire who does have Burning Head to clear away chaff. He's got Flaming Sword of Ruin. He does have Cascading Fire Cloak and Fireball. In retrospect, I probably should have gone for Piercing Bolts rather than the Burning Head, but oh well, hindsight is 2020, as they say. Scroll Shielding, as well as the Forbidden Rod, does make up the rest of the comp here. Now, on the ground, you can see it's a pretty cheap comp. Double Chaos Warriors, Great Weapons, single Chaos Warrior, and Mirror Guard. So I'm kind of relying on my other units here to deal with the large, and these guys are basically just there to cleave through infantry. Unfortunately, their HP per model is lower, and they do have a lower overall HP than Chosen, so that's going to make them much more susceptible to Mortis engines. They also have lower leadership, which could all potentially be a problem, but we'll definitely see how it pans out in this game. Now, my opponent went with a less monster or less all-or-nothing build here. He did bring some Skeleton Spears. You can see some Graveguard Great Weapons, some Sternsmen, which actually puts this line at risk, because Graveguard Great Weapons will trade pretty well with Chaos Warriors with Great Weapons. They're a pretty solid unit nowadays. With their drop in price, they're definitely more decent. Sternsmen, of course, a very respectable unit. Manny over here on foot, coming in with Spirit Leech. I almost said Earthblood, Raise Dead, and Invocation from the Heck, and of course all his items and abilities. A Mortis engine, a vanilla variant over here to provide some additional Winds of Magic, as well as that Reliquary of Corruption and that healing, so a bunch of abilities there. Vargulf, of course, for 8p damage, and this is an interesting choice. Normally you see Terrorgeists, but you know, with my opponent not really going for an air superiority, I think it's actually smarter in that case to just go more heavy on the ground force. If you're not going all in to win air, you should probably not risk it, in my opinion, in the case of Vampire Guns, because you have no tools to support air. A bunch of spears on the periphery, as well as a single unit of Blood Knights, do round out that army and really give it some decent punch. And you can see immediately we're going to push forward a little bit with our Marauder Horsemen, with our Marauder Horsemasters, try to get some poke in on the Vargulf, but my opponent is fairly patient here, and he is going to push forward with his infantry and screen us out, so we're going to have to run here pretty shortly. You can see the Marauder Horsemen actually getting a little surrounded there. Perhaps a few of them, or Marauder Horsemasters, perhaps a few of them will get dragged down and blocked, but you know, it's not too much of a concern. In the meantime, we are getting some chip damage. You can see a Fireball did go off, but whiffed, I do believe. So we've been trying to chip away. My opponent here drops a Spirit Leech on the Chaos Lord. It's going to do about 500 damage. Nothing too crazy. This is early game. Honestly, we're basically just closing the gap on each other. What I do make a bit of a mistake here is the fact that I'm actually going to push past this rock, which is going to give my opponent a little bit of an opportunity to get a slight surround. What I should have done is basically use this rock as an anchor and prevent my opponent from flanking me that way, but I don't do that, so big mistake on my part. We are going to push in. And in this engagement, you know, of course, Chaos Warriors are just going to dump some skeletons. That's not a contest. In the frontline fight here, you can see the Chaos Warriors are going to trade really effectively with the Graveguard. Great Weapons, about 50-50 probably. And over here, you can see the Mirror Guard are going to trade pretty well with Sternsmen. Now, my opponent here, getting a little greedy with the Mortis engine, trying to get that drain effect, but he does not have tools on standby to defend it, and immediately we do dive in. You can see the Exalted Hero immediately going in, the Chaos Lord going in, dumping all of his abilities all at once, and you can see that Mortis engine goes down like a 9-pin. My opponent didn't have any tools nearby to protect it, so although he's going to get some nasty connections there, We do drop a Cascading Fire Cloak there on our good old Exalted Hero, and although the Vargulfs do get some connections, we are going to be able to sneak away, having just sniped out a very valuable unit from my opponent's army. So, despite his best efforts, my opponent just lost a 1,400 gold investment, so big loss there. Definitely pretty brutal stuff. Unfortunately, though, the Vargulfs are still around kicking, and you can see despite the best efforts of the Javelins, they're doing pretty well, so we're going to dive in here with our Goon Squad, trying to goon out these Vargulfs, trying to beat them down, because Vargulfs, you know, they've got decent melee stats, but with our fire damage, that benefit, we'll definitely be able to do some more work here. You can see the Vargulf is taking quite a bit of a pounding here. It loses a lot of HP, immediately dropping to about half. It's already hit its healing cap, and it's in some pretty grim shape. Unfortunately for me, though, my opponent gets extricates his other Vargulf, and you can see the Blood Knight's kind of loitering around doing nothing. But he's going to be able to hit here, this pocket over here, where, like I said, I kind of exposed the flank. We're getting wrapped up a little bit. These Chaos Warriors, although they've been training so well with the Graveyard of the Grey Weapons, are suddenly going to break. I actually think the Chaos Warriors could probably win in the long run against the Graveyard of the Grey Weapons, but that doesn't happen. We do get a nice little roast, though. So it's a bit of a back and forth. There's still plenty of time. You can see with over here the rout does happen, and these Chaos Warriors are going to get really torn apart because they can't really outrun Vargulfs. That just doesn't work. The Vargulfs, though, healing up, and we've definitely kind of... Although it looked really well initially, my opponent, because I went with that cheaper front line, I don't have that huge advantage in this infantry fight. My opponent's actually able to slowly but surely start winning this infantry fight, and so things are looking a little grim. Now we do dive in over here, and we're going to win this flank, because we do have such a heavy monster presence. We do have the benefit of the Marauder Javelins. You can see as my opponent pushes the melee here with his Blood Knights, we're going to start peppering away at them with our Javelins. They're going to do a lot of work. Marauder Javelin's definitely no joke, and neither are the Marauder Horsemasters. They've got 7 AP on the normal Horsemen, 8 AP on the Marauder Horsemasters, and that's going to add up to a lot. And you can see these Blood Knights really getting taken down, really taken to task. And my opponent's actually going to be forced to sort of pull away and retreat into this pocket of infantry over here. Meantime, this group of units here is just kind of loitering around, not really doing very much. So I'm going to try to pull the Chaos Warriors back into the fight. But obviously these guys now are so beat up that they're not going to be able to win this fight at all. But taking an overarching look, you can see over here my opponent really battering away at my Exalted Hero. We are trying to deal with these Vargulfs. You can see how much this Vargulf has healed up in such a short amount of time. Some really brutal stuff. And unfortunately, the Exalted Hero really getting pounded. So my opponent being very good about keeping his monsters alive and winning the fight based on attrition. The thing is, Chaos, of course, doesn't have any sorts of healing. The Vampire counts, if they keep cycling in, they can essentially get, if they manage to play efficiently, you can get like an extra 75% of your HP out of your units, so it's pretty crazy. My opponent here blocking off my Chaos Warrior fire. He's trying to whittle down my Exalted Hero, and things are looking pretty grim. Fortunately, the Mirror Guard, who are of course immune to psychology, are able to anchor the line here and hold it a little more efficiently. And you can see they are going to actually, despite getting basically slaughtered to man here, they did buy us a lot of time to win this fight here. We're able to mop up most of the chaff, most of my opponent's chaff units, and this Vargulf is getting chipped away. You can see that very angry Chaos Lord here, although beaten up, has popped so many buffs, and he's just able to really smack down his Vargulf, so he's not having a good day at all. Unfortunately, the Exalted Hero also pounded really badly, and this is an expensive investment. This guy's like this guy's probably like close to 1,500, 2,000 gold, and he's almost dead. So, regardless, though, the Chaos Lord does take that Vargulf to task. He does pull him off the field, and we are then able to take off and extricate ourselves. Also, the Chaos Warriors, although not in the best of shape here, are going to be able to hold and anchor the line for just a little bit longer. So, at this point, the battle is kind of stabilizing. My opponent has a lot of summons on the field, which we're kind of hoping or waiting for them to die off. But he's also got some health units, some great weapons. He's got some Sternsmen. He still does have a Vargulf with respect to HP. We do get a nice little roast, melting some of these great weapons, but nonetheless, there are still some Blood Knights. There's still Manny at almost full HP, and things are definitely not looking amazing. Unfortunately for me, these Chaos Warriors are all kind of routed off, so my ground contingent is essentially reduced to just these light horsemen. But you know, we'll see where it goes. We're still definitely not out of it yet. So we're going to launch a fireball here at the Vargulf. It's going to clock that Vargulf for a lot of HP. He's looking really sad. These spearmen over here disintegrating. We've been doing a lot of chip damage with our Horsemasters and our Horsemen. We're trying to chip away at those Blood Knights because they're such a big threat. My opponent at this point running very low on Winds of Magic, so he's using, you can see, Invocation of the Heck to heal up those Blood Knights. Very valuable unit. At this point, his only unit really that can potentially carry him this game. But nonetheless, you can see Balance of Power not in my favor, just very slightly in my opponent's favor. So we're doing our very best to chip away these Graveyard, really whittle these troops down. Another fireball does go down on the Vargulf, who is now completely in tatters. And you can see the Blood Knights here, essentially the only remaining unit to be a major threat. Now, fortunately for me here, this was a big win. The Chaos Warriors actually do rally on the periphery here, and you can see they're going to get a charge off. And of course, a charge, when you get your charge bonus, I don't know if it shows the exact, but charging gives you 15 extra mobility, and then they're of course going to be winning this fight, which is going to mean that their leadership isn't going to buckle, and these guys are actually going to be able to hack through these zombies and then get back into the fray, which is a huge win for me. Vargulf over here is getting whittled down, and suddenly we're able to start pulling that balance of power back towards the middle. My opponent is Vargulf over here getting whittled down. I honestly should have at this point countercharged it with the Marauder Horsemasters, but it actually just disintegrates there on its own. It's just flopping dead. And we're able to sort of string my opponent's army out over here. You can see these Graveguard getting isolated, and while my opponent is going to have these guys get isolated, we're going to dive in here against the Blood Knights and really try to put the pounding on them. So we get a nice little recharge, of course. They don't get their charge bonus because they're on the ground. And of course, with all our buffs popped, Cascading Fire Cloak going down, with Standard Eye going down, we're going to be doing a lot of hurt. But unfortunately, Manfred does turn around, and he takes a nasty swing at the Exalted Hero, who is going to go down here. You see he gets dragged down to the muck. Poor Manticore, they're just dead and not coming back. But the Blood Knights at the same time are suffering as well. The Chaos Sorcerer Fire doing some decent damage. My opponent's called Manfred. The Chaos Lord doing some good work, and we do get a rear charge against these Blood Knights. So getting some good value there, really able to drag these guys into the muck. We turn around and cycle charge with the Chaos Sorcerer Fire, and these Blood Knights are going to be no more. So a big win for us. At this point, the balance of power is starting to really shift to the middle, but it's still dead center, and there's still a long time to go. But we've definitely got a big win there. Unfortunately, my opponent does get a nice little summon of zombies here, using up that remaining Winds of Magic, getting some good value, and the Chaos Lord you can see pretty badly beat up. We were able to cycle charge these Graveyard, you can see their HP and morale dropping, and thanks to that we're actually going to start rallying some troops on the periphery, and you know, it's not amazing, but 900 HP worth of Chaos Warriors is still a decent amount. Similarly, over here we've got about 900 HP worth of Chaos Warriors with weapons. These guys are up to 300 kills, and they've just been doing work this game, cleaving through filthy zombies. Really, skulls for the Skull God, blood for the blood for the Blood God, skulls for the Skull Throne. These guys have been doing great. You can see I'm not a real fan of Chaos. I don't actually quote them correctly, but you know, we try. Over here, though, we are able to wipe out the Graveguard with the help of the Marauder Horsemasters, who, although they don't have the best melee stats, if we look at them really quickly, if we look at their weapon strength 26, and for that they've got 6 AP and they've got some good charge bonus of 30, so they're really able to land some meaty hits on these Graveguard, who are of course exhausted or debilitated, and so they're going to be taking a lot of damage, and we were able to sort of pick these troops apart. The zombies of course are going to disintegrate eventually, and my opponent is at this point reduced to just the Sternsmen and these Skeleton Spears, so we're definitely in a good spot here. We're going to be able to pull these Marauder Horsemen off to the side and start chipping away, and you can see we're casting Fireballs at this point, trying to whittle down Manfred, who's using Master of the Black Arcs to try to get some Winds of Magic back, but honestly at this stage of the game he's just so low on Winds of Magic, I think, that he's not going to be able to get very much out of it. But unfortunately, my opponent here, the Sternsmen, are going to get really beat up. They're down to 43 models, and so we are going to charge in with our Chaos Lord. The Chaos Lord does fire damage, so when he gets a meaty charge like this, you can see he immediately knocks off several models. And of course, that fire damage doing bonus against the Sternsmen. Of course, he's got AP because he's a dragon. He's just doing some monstrous work. We do cast the Cascading Fire Cloak because I mistakenly believed my opponent was going to go after my Chaos Lord for fire. He was not. He goes right after my Chaos Lord, and so bit of a waste there, and unfortunately that doesn't mean Manfred makes another connection, really dropping this Chaos Lord pretty low, and you can see the bounce of power still at about 50%. We are going to cycle in, cycle back in, cycle out, cycle back in, really dealing a nasty blow to these Sternsmen. And my opponent, because he's been using these zombie summons, he doesn't have the Winds of Magic for another Nehek. And honestly, these guys do still have a little bit of healing to go, but unfortunately, because there's no Nehek, they're not going to be able to make a comeback, and so they're just relying on the regen, getting whittled down. You can see the Javelins pouring in. This is, obviously, these guys, I was aiming at the Spears at this point because the Sternsmen were so beaten up, but still, that is going to apply that leadership penalty for being under fire, and it's going to put us in a much better spot. In the meantime, the Chaos Warriors still doing work, down to 700 HP, cleaving through the Skeleton Spears. Our Chaos Sorcerer is going to dive into the Sternsmen, down to 16 models, crumbling, just disintegrating. These guys are in terrible shape, and yet they're still fighting. They're still fighting a good fight, still holding out strong, down to 13 models, 300 HP. They just will not go down, and my poor Chaos Warriors actually do rout at 500 HP. So some rough stuff over here. The Chaos Warriors trekking their way back. I think they actually routed accidentally before, but we're finally able to start pulling this match to a conclusion. You can see the balance of power actually shifting out of my favor at this point, because my Lord is so badly beat up, and you can see it's basically just the Chaos Sorcerer and the Lord and some beat up infantry, but against a very healthy Manfred. But of course, it's important to keep in mind that we are on the dragon, so we can get some good cycle charging, some good charges in, and now it is the end game. We're going to charge in, we're going to isolate Manfred, he's going to get punted around like a ragdoll. The poor zombies here really are not that useful. Our cavalry rallying on the periphery, so we're going to be able to charge in, surround Manfred, and piling in at the last moment here with Filth Mason going off, Standard Eye going down, Chaos Lord just diving and using that AP value to crush poor Manfred once and for all. So he's going to go down here surrounded by a bunch of angry Chaos Maniacs. So I don't. So first and foremost, obviously, this build wasn't. I wouldn't say this is an optimal build against Chaos. I would say this is not really the meta build you're going to see. Certainly, there are builds like that don't necessarily entirely rely on just spamming chaff backed by Terrorgeists. But the Mortis engine is always core. But I think the most meta build really is Terrorgeists with either Manfred or Red Duke on a Dragon, backing up a Mortis engine and a whole bunch of chaff, with say some Direwolves, Dire Pack, or Bats or something to distract shooting. So I think this wasn't a meta build, and despite that, this build actually didn't do that well. Honestly, I wasn't too pleased with it. We managed to snipe out the Mortis engine incredibly quickly, but the low quality of our infantry meant they weren't really that good of an anchor. The stat difference is just huge between Chaos Warriors with great weapons and Chosen with great weapons, or Chaos Warriors with halberds and Chosen with halberds, and units like that. If we did a quick comparison here, we can... If we go quickly into our custom battles and we look at the stats for Warriors of Chaos, and we've got, say, our halberds compared to the Chosen with halberds, just look at those stat differences. The armor difference alone is huge, and keep in mind that because you lose armor as the match, as you get tired, where Chaos Warriors drop to a mere 65 armor when they lose that 35%. Chosen, which are obviously also suffering that penalty, are going to lose 40, so they're still going to be at around 80 armor when push comes to shove. Which is a much more respectable amount than 60-ish. It's actually a significant tangible difference. There's also that huge difference in melee defense, and melee defense scales so well as you get exhausted. And undead units don't have the best melee offense stats, so it's such a huge boon. And of course, the higher weapon strength by a huge amount, and of course, the bigger bonus versus large. And let's see, 26 compared to like 19 on these guys. It's a huge difference, and it really plays out in this sort of situation where your opponent goes with a more traditional, for lack of a better term, more conventional army comp that's not min-maxed essentially. The Chosen would have held so much better there. It's why I think that, quite frankly, the best composition in this matchup is the Kolek plus Shaggoth build. Back it up with a Sorcerer, backed up with like 2 Marauder Horsemasters. The other thing is that you have to invest much more in range shooting if you want to be competitive in the skies as Chaos. Because if your opponent goes with that sort of min-maxed Terrorgeist build, a Lord and 2 guys on a Chimera or Manticore are not going to cut it. I don't know why I say Chimera. Wow, it's sad. But either way, 2 guys on a Manticore and your Lord on a Dragon are not going to cut that fight. They're not going to be able to win. They're going to get clobbered. You actually saw that in the to an extent in the recent tourney I played in. I actually played against someone who basically brought an air build, and I clobbered him pretty badly with that, with the air spam. So it's something you have to invest in a lot. I think it's something you have to. And I think it just weakens your whole army, and I think it's a disadvantage. I do think there's some merit to the air spam ability, but I definitely don't think it's good to go with cheaper infantry. They route much more easily. They're not able to trade as effectively with Graveguard and Graveguard with great weapons, which are not the rarest pick ever, especially now they've gotten cheaper. They're not able to withstand cavalry charges as effectively. They don't last as long as Vigor kicks in either. They're, of course, much more susceptible to Vigor drain. In general, I just don't find them that nifty. That's my 2 cents on the matter, but it's something I would... Generally, and I think that, especially from this experience in this game, I definitely don't think it's a good idea to go with those mid-tier infantry armies. I think Go Elite, it's your best bet. I think it's by far your best bet as Chaos. Regardless, great game to my opponent in this match. I do hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hopefully you found it a little informative, and perhaps gave you some ideas on this matchup. If you enjoyed it, and you want to see more of this sort of content, be sure to leave a like and subscribe below. As usual, guys, if you have any requests, I try to cycle through factions. I try to go through different factions so that we get good coverage of everything, and so I kind of cover, partially because I like all the factions, or I like to mess around and try different stuff, but also I do try to give every faction a fair shake. But if you guys, there's a specific faction any of you wants to see played, or I'm more than willing, more than happy to try to play certain factions and get you guys some of the stuff you want if there's something you want to see. So be sure to post in the comments and let me know if there's stuff, if there's any requests you have honestly, even if it's just requests on videos or anything, be sure to post it down. Sometimes it's just stuff that I haven't really thought about. Sometimes it's stuff I don't really consider. So be sure to let me know. As usual, guys, I do appreciate you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Wyvern out.